The injury bug has once again sunk his teeth into Joel Embiid as the Sixers star is now ruled out for another game, and there is beginning to be some long-term concerns about the state of this knee. I want to speak a little bit in this video about how kind of concerned I am just about the weirdness of the management from the Sixers side of things. We know the unique challenges that Joel Embiid has, the injuries that he has battled throughout the years, and kind of just the understanding that he is a little bit of a different standard than most players when it comes to injuries, the way that he affects, a unique human being 7'2", 300 pounds, and the problems that come with that. But I do want to speak specifically about this issue as a whole. I did touch on it in my last video that I dropped on the channel, talking a little bit about this mention that Ramona Shelburn had a comment. I want to dig deeper into that, which she walked back a little bit. And what really sparked this was the official announcement that Joel Embiid will be out for Friday's games against the Sacramento Kings. Now, why this is so concerning to me is because before yesterday's game against the Atlanta Hawks, that Nick Nurse seemed very confident that Joel Embiid was set to return to the floor, that he spoke about the swelling going down, that he was really optimistic, and that obviously did not show face, as there was that announcement late into today. I'm curious what the full outlook of this is. Now, to speak on some of my concern, I want to start with some of the phrasing from the Sixers side of things. We have yet to see an official injury diagnosis that Austin Carell, shout out Austin of 97.3 ESPN, tweeted out, Joel Embiid is listed out for tomorrow's game versus the Kings with left knee inflammation. Important to note that up until just now, the team listing it as swelling in the left knee. So still a weird kind of distinguishing factor there. My frustration with this is swelling is not an injury, or inflammation is not an injury. We're not talking about what is the actual concern here. Is there a tear in a ligament? Is it a meniscus issue? What is going on? And that brings me back to Ramona Shelburn's point here, which I touched on earlier. And we'll get this quote exactly right. Shout out to Sixers Galaxy, who did take this down after a little bit of a heat, but he did get this quote accurate. So I did want to make sure this was the case. And he tweeted, quote, that knee injury is the same one that he had during the playoffs last year. And during the playoffs, he had to play. And this is kind of this is the kind of knee injury that is normally a 4 to 6 week injury. Now, for starters, I want to say that if it is a 4 to 6 week injury, then Joel Embiid should not be playing basketball for 4 to 6 weeks. There is zero reason to push him at this point in the season when there are far bigger goals down the line. Now, what I thought was specifically interesting about this is that wasn't Shelburne breaking news or having this hard-hitting report that she wanted everybody to know. She pretty much mentioned that as an offhand comment, a throwaway kind of mention, and it was just kind of in the flow of conversation that they moved on immediately following. This was not a sticking point in the conversation, which, if that is true, it absolutely should be. That would be breaking news if Joel Embiid has a 4 to 6 week knee injury that he's battling. Now, why I thought that was especially interesting is Shelburne started to walk this back, as she tweeted out a little bit later in the day to clarify the issue that caused Embiid to miss the most recent time is swelling in his left knee, not the same issue he managed in the playoffs. There is not currently a long-term concern, and he is considered day-to-day, per source. Now, why I think this is interesting in the timing of things is, for starters, Ramona Shelburne has been the most tapped into national reporter as far as Joel Embiid's camp and the Sixers camp. She's been really on top of it from a lot of the Ben Simmons reports, the James Harden reports, Doc Rivers, some of the coaching drama, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff all centering around Joel for the entirety of his career. So she is a source that is in the know and pretty comfortable with the Joel Embiid camp, and I do believe that this was a tweet pretty much sent from Joel Embiid's camp saying, tone it down a little bit. We don't want that to be talked about, or that is not true, whatever the case may be. And getting to the bottom of what that exact case is very relevant for the Sixers. Is this something that they don't want public, or is this something that just straight up is not happening at all? Now, we know the situation that the Sixers face, and we know the situation that Joel Embiid faces, that we have yet throughout the entirety of his career to see him go through a playoff stretch where he's fully healthy. The lone exception, that coming in the bubble when there was that shutdown in between, but we do not count that. Now Horford was on the team, so that might as well have been a wash away anyway. But for Joel Embiid, that the focus has to be on being ready for the big dance, for having his biggest performances on the biggest stage. Now, the side point to that is obviously the MVP race. And the frustrating part of all of this is that if you take all these concerns aside, if you finish the NBA season right at this very moment, Joel Embiid is your MVP. That he's been the best player in the league. After winning MVP last year, he's averaging more points, more rebounds, more assists, more steals, and more blocks on fewer minutes per game. That just does not happen. And to see him take those next steps, you can see it in his game, the way he's processing the game, making passes. He truly has improved in a pretty significant way after being crowned MVP last year. but there were the changes brought on by the NBA stating that NBA players must play a minimum of 65 games to earn MVP, all league honors. Players must be on the floor for 20 minutes in at least 65 games to be eligible for the honors, including NBA MVP and all NBA teams. Sources briefed on the details of the new collective bargaining agreement told The Athletic. So as you can see, that is a lingering and overhanging point in Joel Embiid's mindset here, that he's been pretty open about his desire to take home these accolades. And to be honest, I like that he gets a lot of hate for that, but you should want to be the best. You should want these awards, not if it comes at the expense of your team. Now, tomorrow's game will mark the 10th game that Joel Embiid has missed this season. And the Sixers, in the meantime, are 2-7 in the games that Joel Embiid has not played. Now, to look a little bit at their record without Embiid over the years, shout out to Dan Ollinger of the Rights Ricky Sanchez here. In his rookie season in 2016-17, the Sixers were 15-36 in games that Joel Embiid did not play. The following year, 11-8 without Joel Embiid. In 2018-19, 8-10 without Joel Embiid. In 2019-20, 11-11. Dropped down to 10-11 in 2020, 2021. 2021, 2022, they were 6-8. Last year, they were 11-5 without Joel Embiid. And this year, after last night's game, moved to 2-7 on the year. So, very clear. It shouldn't be a hard-hitting take or a shocking analysis here that the Sixers are a better team when the MVP of the league and the best player on their roster is on the floor. But what has struck me a little bit differently this year is just how concretely different the identity of the team is when it's Joel Embiid and when it's not. Now, he's one of the most highest usage players in the entire NBA. He's the guy that soaks up the biggest chunk of their shot diet, is their most impactful player defensively. It's not like this is a surprise the way it happens, but it is kind of stark to me that after all these years, we're having a lot of similar conversations. I don't think Nick Nurse trusts Paul Reed or Mo Bamba whatsoever. And frankly, he has some good reason for both of those guys and their ups and downs that we've seen so far this year. We've seen a lot of Marcus Morris at the 5 playing some small ball, trying to space the floor. But this is not conducive to winning, and it has not been thus far. Tyrese Maxey is awesome. I have a hard time being this critical of Tyrese because he continues to soar past every single expectation. That there were questions going into this year as a whole if he could even be a number 2 on this Sixers team to Joel Embiid, and he has passed that test in flying colors. So then to be mad that he can't quite be the number 1 on nights which the Sixers need him to is a little rough in my mind. That I think we're holding to him a little bit too high of a standard, and frankly, the growth rate that he is on just has not been matched really ever of any player that I've ever seen. We're talking about the same dude that shot 29% from beyond the three-point arc in college. Fast forward 3 years, and he's been a top 5 three-point shooter in the league in 2 out of the last 3 seasons. So ridiculous stuff there. I don't want to hold his feet to the fire too much on this, but the bottom line is if Joel Embiid is missing an extended period of time, the Sixers do have to find a way to keep their head afloat. That the East is not a cakewalk through. When you look behind the Sixers in the standing, teams are coming. The New York Knicks have looked awesome since the trade for OG Anunoby. They have Jalen Brunson. They have Julius Randle. They have talent there. Even a team like the Toronto Raptors starting to get their act together after are getting the other side of the coin with the RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley trade there. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been playing better basketball even with the injuries they've been battling. The Indiana Pacers have been one of the surprise teams and more fun teams to watch all season, even with their injury to Tyrese Halliburton right now. So the bottom line is that the league is not waiting for the Sixers, that if they have to tread water and try and keep their head afloat while Joel Embiid recovers, the rest of the league is not going to be waiting around. And that is something the Sixers have to keep in mind. But for Joel's sake, the bottom line is this team is not going anywhere if Joel Embiid is not healthy come playoff time. That we've seen his shortcomings in the playoffs. There are things that he has to address on court outside of the injuries. When I'm talking about the way that he is guarding, the way teams double him, the way that he has to process the game at a different speed come playoff time, and the inherent issues that come when a big man is your best player. The different defensive tactics and strategies that teams can throw at him in a way that you just can't quite do on a guard. Those are issues that all have to be overcome. And what does not help any of that is if you are not at your full strength come that time. So for now, it is kind of a frustrating reality. It sucks to have to do this early in the season, but I think Joel Embiid needs to sit back and say, what is my priority here? Is it to continue adding to my personal accolades, to push myself and be in the running for MVP once again? Or is it to sit back, let my body heal, let my teammates take the reins, and come back ready to have a force come playoff time? Even in the worst case scenario, the Sixers are not dropping out of playoff contention, that they are currently the 3rd seed in the East. They are among the most talented teams across the NBA, still fringe championship contenders, and depending what happens at the trade deadline, I do think there's a real chance that they deserve to be lumped into that top-tier category across the NBA. But that all starts with Joel Embiid. And if he's not ready to answer the biggest call in the biggest moments, this team is not going anywhere. So I think that the unfortunate reality that Joel Embiid, and in fairness to him, he has reached the 65 game total the past 2 years and lost out on MVP his first season to Nikola Jokic due to games missed. So I get the hunger here. And frankly, he is still on pace to hit 65 games based on the trajectory he has taken the past 2 seasons. But I am concerned with what exactly the issue is here. I would love to see some clarity from inside the Sixers organization. Love to see a statement on what exactly he is dealing with rather than just the vague knee soreness or swelling or whatever is going on. But the bottom line is this team is not going to have him on the floor, and they're going to be worse because of this. Hopefully, this is a short-term deal, that this is much ado about nothing, and he does make his way back on the floor sooner rather than later. But it could ultimately be the best thing for the Sixers organization if Joel Embiid does swallow this pride pill real quick, says, I'm out of the MVP race. I'll let the race pass me by, and I'm focused on helping my team win a championship. Because a finals MVP looks a whole lot better than a regular MVP sitting on that trophy case above the fireplace. So we will see what happens from here. Once again, I am hoping that we get some sort of clarity from the Sixers organization. They've been very vague to this point. Hopefully that will be the case, and if that is, then I will be hopping right back on to break things down for you guys. Thank you so much for watching in on this videos. Make sure to drop a comment, your thoughts on this. Smash that subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and I'll be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.